I'm going to do one more quick video on right triangles, but we're going to deal with sine, cosine, and tangent when we do this. This goes for right triangles. I'm going to define each of them first, just to make sure you know what they are. In a triangle, such as this, I'm going to take this angle right here, angle A. Okay? If I'm going to figure out what are called sine, cosine, and tangent, first, this is called the hypotenuse. From this angle, this is called the opposite, and this is the adjacent. If I were talking about this angle, then this one's the opposite, and this is the adjacent. The hypotenuse is always the longest side. Okay, so let me say that again. From angle A, opposite of the angle, adjacent means touching the angle. Hypotenuse is always the longest. If I were talking about this angle, then these two words switch. This is opposite, and this is adjacent, but the hypotenuse doesn't change. Now, by definition, sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is going to be opposite over adjacent. You need to pause the video and make sure you write those down. Now there's a shortcut or a shortcut way of remembering it, and it looks like this. Now notice it's S opposite hypotenuse. Cosine adjacent hypotenuse. That's where those letters are coming from. Tangent opposite over adjacent. They call it SOHCAHTOA. It's an easy way to remember it. SOHCAHTOA. And it's just an abbreviation of all of this. Okay? So, if I have a triangle that looks like this, let's see if you know this. I had this angle, and I had 3, 4, 5. And I wanted to know what the sine of the angle was. Well, by definition, it's going to be opposite over hypotenuse, which is going to be 4 over 5. That's all there it is. That's all there is to it. If I wanted the cosine, it's going to be adjacent, so that would be 3 over 5. If I wanted tangent to that angle, opposite over adjacent would be 4/3. Now, show you something real quick. So I'm going to call that angle 1, and I'm going to call this angle 2. Let's say I had the sine of angle 1. Well, the sine of angle 1 is going to be 4 over 5, opposite over adjacent. What about the cosine of angle 2? Cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse. Same answer. So you have to get the terms right, what opposite the angle and adjacent to the angle. Okay, so you can use whichever one you need, but you can figure it out based on what you have. So let me give you an example of how you might see one of these, and see if you can do this, and then I'll give you some in the now you try section. Let's say we have a triangle that looks like this. Angle A, angle B, angle C, there's my right angle, and they give me 9, oops, they don't, I'm sorry, let's say they tell you have triangle A, B, C. If the sine of A equals 9/15, what's the cosine of B? Well, if they told me that the sine of A, which is opposite over hypotenuse, so that's a 9 and that's a 15. See where I got the numbers? And it wants to know what's the cosine of A. Well, I want to know, let's start with the cosine of A instead of cosine of B. Let's say the cosine of A, so that was sine of A, so how do I get that? Pythagorean theorem says x squared plus 9 squared equals 15 squared. And remember in the last video where we talked about the Pythagorean theorem where you can have 3, 4, 5 that work out. Well, that's a multiple of 3, and that's a multiple of 5. If this is a multiple of 4, it works. That's times 3, that's times 3, 4 times 3. So this is 12. Did you catch that? 3, 4, 5 was the easy Pythagorean theorem. 3 goes into that. 5 goes into that. So 3 goes into that 3 times. 5 goes into that 3 times. So if this is the pattern was 3, 4, 5, and this was 9 and 15, then that has to be 12. So I've just figured out this side's a 12. Now I can answer the question. It wants to know what is cosine A. Well, cosine SOHCAHTOA is going to be adjacent, which is 12, over hypotenuse. Now they can ask me anything, and I can get it. What's tangent of B? Well, start at B. Tangent SOHCAHTOA is opposite over adjacent, 12 over 9. I automatically can get any value they want based on I know all the sides. So in the next video, you're going to get to practice some of your special triangles as well as your right triangles.